What does Bendy's Secrets of the Machine hide from the player off camera? Secrets of the Machine is practically one huge playable Easter egg. Around every corner, there are more secrets to discover, including a handful of interesting teasers and a pretty unexpected rave. With so many things to uncover, there's lots to see behind the scenes and of course break along the way, like avoiding the gasket attack in the Gent ending. We've got lots to cover, so I hope you enjoy this new look out of bounds at Bendy Secrets of the Machine. To quickly recap what we'll be covering, the player starts off in this seemingly endless void. There's a gate directly in front of you, and a bit further ahead we can see a building which I believe is called the drawing room. As we approach, lightning strikes the chimney and smoke begins billowing out. Heading inside, we'll see Ragtime Guffy standing in the tunnel ahead, but he disappears when we approach. From here, we can basically do whatever we want, and by interacting with the map in various ways, we can find several Easter eggs and hidden endings. Because this game doesn't have a linear progression and was updated periodically, I can't coherently recap the rest, so I'll be explaining things as we go. Restarting the game, we can view this void area from a different angle, which just shows how big it really is. Even zoomed out, the Sea of Ink extends out into the horizon. But when viewing this, I noticed that the storm we typically see isn't really a storm at all. Just behind the shack, we can see that the storm clouds and lightning are completely flat, and there's simply a looping animation placed here to add to the atmosphere. When investigating the storm, I noticed that the shack itself isn't a fully rendered model either. The back of the building is completely hollow, and there's nothing beyond the door we use to enter the drawing room. Upon closer inspection, we'll find that there's a black barrier placed inside the doorway alongside the trigger to load the following map. So by the time you realize you stopped walking, the screen will be fading to black. Speaking of barriers though, there's an invisible wall that prevents the player from walking behind the building, and when deleted, we can see this empty side for ourselves. Now as for the giant archway at the beginning, at the time of recording this, there are 6 messages that can appear at the top. These include Conceal, Illusion, Real Life, Remember, Regrets, and Discover. These messages are simply flat pieces of text placed atop the arch, and they'll be enabled and disabled throughout typical gameplay. Now, before moving on, there are a couple of interesting things hidden here that we can't currently see. Just behind the arch, there is a giant Bendy costume currently that is used for one of this game's Easter eggs, and we can enable it here for a better look. It's a scaled up version of the costume model seen inside, though to my knowledge, this one remains static. It is absolutely massive though, and not something I want to be stuck with in an endless void. Just outside the drawing room's entrance, there's a wheelchair placed on the porch. After accessing the theater inside, Ragtime Guffy will be in his chair when we attempt to re-enter. During your first playthrough though, Guffy is technically already there. He just hasn't been enabled yet. This entire game takes place in just a few separate maps, and the differences we see throughout our playthroughs are typically slight alterations to the existing levels. In this case, Guffy can be enabled before we enter, and he just kind of chills here as normal. Finally, in one of the versions of this void area, the door to the drawing room will be boarded up with a sign that reads Condemned. Using hacks, we can move the sign away from the other boards and look at the back, where we'll find the words Wandering is a Terrible Sin written on it. This is a recurring Easter egg in the Bendy series, so it's pretty cool to find it here as well. That's it for this void area though, so let's head inside and have a look around. First and foremost, we can have a look at this map from an outside perspective, where we can see just how small it is. There are a few tunnels that lead us to the main hub, but beyond that, there isn't much to see out of bounds. The first thing we'll run into here is the Guffy that disappears when we approach. And by moving the camera up close, we can see that he's no more than a flat image. He's also one-sided, so if we manage to get behind him, we'd still be staring at the back of his head. After this fading animation ends, this model will be disabled for the remainder of your playthrough. A bit further ahead, we arrive at the main hub where the Bendy costume begins chasing us. This entity will follow you around endlessly, only stopping when the player moves out of their pathing range. From another angle, we can see that this model just glides across the floor when out of the player's sight. This entity is pretty much harmless, but they're still super creepy. You can actually destroy them by using a golden soup can, and in doing so twice, the giant version of this entity we saw earlier will be loaded into the void after the game restarts. Speaking of soup cans though, we have an endless supply of them using the dispenser in the main hub. But where exactly does our infinite supply of beans come from? Well, by moving the camera inside the machine, we can see that the moment we press the button, a can of beans or bacon soup materializes out of thin air. Glorious! Now, one of the rooms in the main hub is the Old Time Theater, and to access it, 3 cans must be thrown into this pipe. When this is done, the barricade will be removed, and Guffy will appear near the entrance. After heading inside, Guffy will be gone when we step back out, but we can of course re-enable him. That way we can have some company during our exploration here. Inside the theater, a rather creepy film can be played by throwing a can at the screen. but what I find more interesting is just beyond it. Behind the theater screen, just out of bounds, we'll find a set of numerical text. These numbers are referred to as spinner code in the game files, and they're directly tied to the character spinners in the teaser room. When one of these panels is flipped, its corresponding digit out of bounds will be changed to a 1. For instance, the Fluffsy teaser appears when this code reads 1101, whereas the Bendy 3 screen activates on 0011. When the screen changes, it will rotate a handful of times, and the image will appear or disappear when facing away from the player. Now, while exploring this area, you can find a small Nintendo 64 cartridge hidden inside of a ventilation duct. It's pretty small, so it's a bit hard to see, so I enlarged it for a better look. The text reads, Bendy 64, Valley of Stains, and it's a pretty faithful recreation of a Nintendo 64 cartridge. Apparently, this isn't only an Easter egg either, as the developers posted a photo of a physical copy on their Twitter account. Next, there's a rather interesting secret found within the theater that I'm sure a lot of you are curious about. By consuming enough bacon soup, the player can destroy the poster on the old-time theater's wall, revealing a small hole. Peeking through said hole reveals a handful of Bendy characters dancing together in a rave, including a glow-stick-wielding ink demon, making for a truly glorious Easter egg. Take a look beyond this wall reveals that there isn't actually anything here, and the rave is simply a video that plays when the player looks through the hole. When the video ends, the trigger for this scene is completely unloaded. Now, if we head over to the door on our right, there are 2 lit up windows that can be broken using the cans, and when this is done, the door will be unlocked. Heading inside, we arrive at this house area where we learn about a character named Riley. After grabbing a pencil and marking our height on the wall, a crash will be heard and the door opens behind us, leading into a school hallway. After overhearing a conversation between 2 unknown individuals, we head back into the house, draw a terrifying gasket, leading to our hiring at Joey Drew Studios. We continue to draw some pretty grim stuff, resulting in this silhouette giving us a notice of termination. We then walk into a small black room, where a container reading Gent can be found on a table. Heading back to the start of this section of the game, we can take a look beyond the door itself, where we'll find that it doesn't lead anywhere. The player is actually warped to a completely separate map upon entering this door. When arriving at this location, we can see that the hallway we enter from is a small pitch black corridor attached to the house interior. When the player finishes drawing the pictures and the car crash is heard, the school hallway will then be loaded in behind this closed door. The doors surrounding us do not lead anywhere, nor does the door at the end of the hallway. We can, however, see that the 2 silhouettes in the psychologist's office are simply a graphic placed inside the door. After the conversation ends, this asset will be disabled once more. When heading back into the house, the door closes behind us and the school is then replaced by the studio location. When the termination letter is given to the player, another silhouette appears behind the door of Joey Drew's office, and the method used here is the same as the psychologist's office. During this time, the house area is unloaded and the Gent hallway will take its place. But something interesting occurs when this happens. Not all the objects used in Riley's home are unloaded, so by moving the camera out of bounds, we can see a few of the assets still present. This includes a bunch of cobwebs, the lights from the windows, and even the family portrait. The frame for the painting is missing though, so currently only the brush strokes and blood are visible, which is pretty creepy. We can actually disable this black barrier and look around in first person, and it's honestly super unsettling. By removing this barrier, we're also able to walk on the outside of the hallway as well, since the floor extends beyond the walls. So after the game restarts, and we head back into the drawing room, the usual path is blocked off, and by turning the corner, we'll find a monstrous version of Gasket waiting for us. When approached, he revs up and chases us, running the player over and restarting the game once more. We can move the camera to the end of the tunnel and have a closer look at Gasket, and he's pretty spooky looking. He has a horrifying face in front of the windshield, and 2 hands extending from his doors. The creepiest part is definitely the mouth and the grill though, since his spiky teeth are now more human-like and covered in blood. Now of course, I wanted to see if I could break this brief chase, so I deleted one of the walls blocking our entrance to the main hub. I was then able to walk out of the main tunnel, resulting in Gasket driving by without hitting us. It turns out the game doesn't have a failsafe in place here, so they'll remain at the entrance indefinitely. If we walk into their collider, the animation finishes and the game restarts as usual. Finally, I wanted to have a look at the Ink Demon jump scare. When the player destroys enough Bendy cutouts using the soup cans, or holds shift and types K414, the Ink Demon will jump scare and kill them. We can view this animation from another angle, where we can see that they'll basically just reach out to grab the player and bite at them. They then freeze until the game restarts. And with that, that's everything I found hidden off camera in Bendy's Secrets of the Machine. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe today so you won't miss what we cover next. Thanks for watching, and cheers!